Our first team for this track is 6417 Blue Crew. They're presenting online from Rockville, Maryland, and they'll be talking about performing well with limited time commitment. Blue Crew is a 12th year FTC team from Rockville, Maryland. They were the finalists at the Chesapeake Championship and were the eighth captain in the Edison division. They were also the Innovate third place award winners at Worlds. This season, they competed at NTI and placed 13th. Everyone, please welcome 6417 Blue Crew.
Okay. Hey everyone. I'm gonna share my screen um once the other person stops, and then let me know if you can see it. Can everyone see my screen?
Oh, shoot.
Is it like visual? Is it like visible? Good.
Why'd you?
We can see.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, cool. Okay, so like the presentation is called Vibro Routing. Essentially it's like how can we get the most out of FTC while being like lazy and not putting that much time in? Because me and Ethan are both lazy. My name's Cooper.
Oh, and my name's Ethan. And welcome to Vibe Roboting.
Okay, we'll skip this slide because we already got an explanation. Okay, so the goal is not all teams can spend that much time on robotics. Either you're like a school team, you can't go in that much, you have college apps, or maybe you have like other extracurriculars you want to deal with. But everybody still wants to perform well. So this presentation is about how you do that. For team structure, this is one of the big things for reducing the amount of time you have to spend on robotics. So a big thing is like reducing bureaucracy, making it so like you don't need coaches like micromanaging every little thing. You don't need like the upper leadership to micromanage every little thing. So having that trust is really important. Also, you have to ask yourself like, does everybody have to be at a meeting? I think a lot of the time in robotics, on like a lot of teams I've been on, we like mandate everybody come to every single meeting. But that doesn't make a lot of sense because half the time, maybe it's like a hardware meeting and software just isn't doing anything. So like staggering when people come in is really important. And also if you have like eight hardware people on your team, maybe it doesn't make that much sense for eight hardware people to be at every meeting. Maybe you only need two, because there's like diminishing marginal returns as you add more people. So like for our team, a lot of the time we'll only have meetings with like one or two people, and then well that way we can meet practically every single day, but each individual person might only go in like once or twice a week. And then also we split hardware and software. Splitting hardware and software time is important. So that means like when it's a hardware meeting, you don't need every single software person there. And when it's a software meeting, you maybe only need like one hardware person there. And in order to have like a smooth transition between different people working on the robot on different days, it's important to like document progress and like explain what needs to be done. So for early season, this is like the most important thing in reducing the amount of time that you have to spend on robotics is not to take any shortcuts in the early season. So that means like having a thorough game analysis. So looking at strategies and metas, and then like another thing is like catting well. So making sure that you have clearances for everything like screw heads and also moving stuff around, testing stuff in on chip and like plot your robot on the field, like move it around, try to do like a virtual cycle to make sure nothing is broken. There's a lot of things you can figure out from just doing that, both in terms of like how to optimize your robot, but also in terms of making sure you don't have like any stupid mistakes. And then like another thing is like my belief is that if you're not sure something is going to work, like you're only 70% or 80% sure, you either prototype it, um, and then make sure it works, or you just scrap it completely. Because if something's only 70% likely to work, that means in like that if that's what you think, then the real world is probably even less likely. And so like if in the real world it's like 60% likely to work, there's a 40% chance like you're just like screwing up your whole season. Um, okay. Also like design reviews. Because like sometimes when you design a robot, you like miss some glaring flaws that other people can catch. And then this also means that you should find like actual mentors and actual people to review your robot, and don't just like send a screenshot on like the FTC Discord and like ask like, does this look okay? And also thinking about backup plans. So, like for example, this year we did a box tube, and that was something that we hadn't done before. So we thought about how could we still compete even if this box tube didn't work, like by switching out with slides. And that means like you want to design with another solution in mind. So like you could just build slides into that location instead of like a box tube, and having like space for like hot swappable components or whatever. Ethan, do you want to do the next slide on design?
Okay. So for design, it's really important to do smart prototyping. For example, some mechanisms need to be prototyped a lot. For example, our box tube, we went through a lot of iterations of that and like tons of 3D prints. And especially with like new mechanisms and complex mechanisms. For example, our hang, which you can see in the like top right hand corner, it's really complicated, so it needed a lot of prototyping. And even then it was kind of inconsistent. So, but on the other hand, things like drivetrains, something that like build every season, like the basic parallel plate drivetrain, you probably don't need to prototype that a lot. And it's very good to reduce points of error as well, or likely failure points. For example, we didn't do a transfer this year because we thought it would be like too difficult to get it going, and it would have a lot of like errors, or it's hard to get it consistent. Dual intakes and DR4Bs also say like same boat. And it's also good to stay away from mechanisms that will need a lot of iteration. I think like I guess like looking back on our season, it probably wouldn't have been a good idea to do that like really complex hang. You can see it in that image. We should have just done something simple. Probably like hanging on the box tube. And it's also very good to design for maintenance, manufacturing, assembly, or wiring, and especially wiring. Um, since like for example, pockets are very good to like you can zip tie wires to it, or you can add wiring holes. For example, on our arm, one of our like later versions had like a few holes added in, so we could zip tie wires to it, and it's good to add redundancy. And I think it's also good to know when to copy. For example, we kind of just like for MTI redesign because we were very time limited. We just like we just exported some other team's claw to just like save some time.
Yeah, and like some other things about this is like for prototyping, I would say you only need to prototype mechanisms that like the most important things to prototype are the mechanisms that actually interact with the game elements because those change year to year. So stuff like transfers or like intakes, those are like the things that we prototyped. Um and then also like to elaborate a little bit on like the idea of like designing for maintenance and manufacturing and all of that stuff. So for maintenance, that means making sure, and also assembly. That means making sure there are like holes for you to screw stuff out. Um, and also like if you can using like socket heads, which are easier to take out if they're stripped or something, than if you had like say a countersink screw. And then also like for manufacturing, that means like Ethan likes putting these like little cute holes on like all the edges, which makes it easier to like put stuff in and like manufacture or whatever. Um, and also like filleting stuff. And then like yeah, and for wiring, like you should really be planning out the entire wire path of your robot. Like you can CAD it if you don't want to. You can just like think about like where all the wires are gonna go and then like place holes accordingly. Like my robot in center stage was like super chopped because like I just like drew wire holes along the like imaginary path for all the wires, and so there was just like a like squiggly line of wire holes across the whole robot, and maybe that's like a little bit DTM, but like definitely like think about how like the wires go. For assembly, Loctite and lock nuts, please. Like if you don't Loctite something and you don't put lock nuts on it, it's probably gonna fall out across the season. Like me and Ethan built like a demo robot for like outreach. It was like a robot in 12 hours, and we didn't put like Loctite or lock nuts because it was a robot in 12 hours. And like that thing was like so awful. The wheels were falling out. Like one time like the whole arm fell off. Um like and we were putting like four screws on everything and tightening properly, but just like put stuff on. Um Stay organized so don't lose parts. Get like those like containers, you can 3D print them. Robust wiring. This is like a really big thing. Like my freshman year was basically ruined because I like didn't know how to solder properly and my wires just kept breaking and I lost like 50 hours because of that. So either like properly learn how to solder stuff. Like don't like cold solder. Don't like run the solder into the iron. Like actually put the iron against the wire and then like run it into the wire. It makes like a way better connection. There's like actually a world of difference. Or just crimp. It's probably easier, more robust, and like less likely to break because like I don't know, that's like the proper way to do it, I guess. Um, and this is for like if you're like doing custom wiring and stuff like that. And then also leverage wire holes and pockets. Um, yeah, when you're building stuff, make sure everything is within the proper server range. So server program stuff as you go, so that you don't have to disassemble stuff and reassemble it in case like the ranges are off. Label wires so you don't forget where they are. And then also like build in sprints, which means like if you have like a free weekend or something, just like grind it out instead of like going in like a little bit every day because that means you have to like take everything out again, and like build and then put it all back, and that takes a lot of time. Fixing mistakes. So removing strip screws. So like know when to stop spinning the screw first of all. So like you don't strip the screw. If you start feeling something strip, just stop. And then try a different hex key because a lot of the times if you use like a hex key enough, it'll strip a lot and then it'll start stripping screws. You can use like the rubber band trick. So you put like a rubber band on the bottom of the hex key. Locking pliers is like my favorite thing to use. Um, because they're really easy. You can like locking plier against like the head. You can use a stripped screw extractor, but I don't think those work that well. I've only gotten it to work like once. Another good way is like you Dremel the screw head and then you remove like the screw, or you can use super glue. I've never tried it, but like I don't know. I heard it works sometimes. Like this is all to say, like inevitably there are going to be a lot of mistakes. And like this is the reason why like build sessions that are supposed to take 3 days take like a week or two. Because like a lot of people don't know how to like deal with these mistakes properly. So first of all, like knowing when to give up. Like don't just keep spinning the hex key if like the screw might strip. And also knowing like the proper ways to go about fixing these issues and not just like messing around for like a couple days. Like search up a YouTube tutorial or something. For clearance issues, you can countersink stuff to get rid of screw heads, and then you can also Dremel stuff. And then like another technique, like my old coach taught me, is like if your screws like intersecting with stuff, you can like put it in the inside of a drill, and then you just like run a file against it. And you can like file like the sides of the screw heads or whatever. It's essentially like a lathe, but like yeah, for a poor man, I guess. Ethan, do you want to do the next slide?
All right, sure. So I guess another big like thing, again, wiring, is if your wiring breaks, you're kind of like it's really annoying to fix, especially if you're doing like really long runs across the robot. So good practices or like how to fix it. You don't want any like pinch points or tight bends, especially don't like bend at the solder. You also want to zip tie your connections. So this is like if you're like connecting the two like servos together or like servo extension to the servo wire, you want to zip tie the connection so it doesn't come out. We think that this is like a bit better than the like yellow things that go below the cells. And again, avoid soldering hell, like and solder properly. Just like to be honest, just crimp. And if you do need a solder, do a hot solder and don't just like don't do a cold solder basically. And electrical tape, very important. If you have like I don't know, if the wire like the casing like is like ripped or something, just like electrical tape it or like even better, I guess heat shrink is also very nice. And again, know when to give up and just be resourceful.
Yeah, yeah. So like, I think like a good anecdote is like my freshman year, like the wires kept breaking, because like our robot was not designed with wiring in mind, and so like we just kept soldering everything back together, and eventually we would have like 8 solders on like a line, and that's like terrible because each solder is like very likely to break. So just like at that point, switch the wire, and like crimping's good, and if you need to solder stuff, like actually solder it properly. I can't emphasize that enough. Um, Software side. Telemetry for debugging is good. Using FTC dashboard for like tuning servo positions, tuning PID values, all of that. Making sure like the software team is also working while the mech team is working. And then also like the ADB Wi-Fi plugin is really useful, so you don't have to like use like Rev Hardware Client or like plug into the control hub. Like search it up. It's so good. Search it up on like Android Studio. This thing's like it's a miracle. Um, GitHub to organize stuff and then also like do stuff right. Like another anecdote from like my freshman year, um, is that like our Roadrunner was tuned like awfully. So like we would have to like hard code the values to be like zero point 0.5 like inches off or whatever in order to make sure everything worked instead of just like using meep and like simulating the paths. And that like wasted so much time. And then also like know your limits. Another example is like last year I tried like forcing out like an extra cycle, so it went to like 2 plus 6 or like 2 plus 8 or whatever, I forgot. And like I spent like 3 all-nighters trying to fix that, and like on like the third all-nighter it like worked one time, and then like it could never work again, and it ended up averaging less than like a 2 plus 4. Um, and it was just like a waste of time because like I wanted to be able to say I had like whatever like auto on like the FTC Discord. So like don't do that. No one to like give up on like adding an extra cycle. And then also like a really good like um return on like investment is like drive practice because you don't have to spend that much time to get like a lot better initially. So yeah, that's like software stuff. Ethan?
Okay, so outreach. On our team, I guess everyone does a little bit of outreach. For example, like John does some FLL stuff. I did some like summer teaching. So it's very good for I guess the team to if everyone does like a little bit of outreach and that all adds up. And it's also nice to have like I guess as a whole team have like some high impact or unique outreach. For example, I guess this year I guess we traveled to Uganda just the week before and we taught like I don't know like 400 kids and that was like I thought that was like really high impact. It was also like a really good learning experience for all of our team members, and it's also good to use other ECs, and also leverage connect. So leverage like I don't know your mentors, leverage like people in the industry, and if Cooper wants to add some more about this.
Yeah, so like I think a big thing with like outreach is it can be something that takes a ton of time to get like good awards or it can not be. Like I think a good example is like everybody now is like coaching an FLL team, and that's a super high time commitment activity. And it does have like a pretty good impact to it. But if your goal is to like get awards without that much time, it's not exactly like the best value for your time, right? So doing stuff that is very high impact and unique is going to be very meaningful. Like another anecdote is like last year, my team, one of our big outreach things that like some of the judges really liked was like a 2 hour event with like foster children or something. And so like having more unique outreach is really good for awards specifically. And obviously like you also want to help people. So making sure like your outreach is really high impact and you're not just like creating like the like 20th video series that's like not very good teaching like block programming or something. So making sure like your outreach is actually being used to do like real stuff and not just like you're not just like or like yeah, whatever. And then like when we say like use other ECs, that means like a lot of people who are doing FTC are also doing other STEM ECs to help other people. Like I run a club at my school to help teach like robotics to ESOL students. That's an example of another EC that can also be considered FTC outreach. Or if you run like a CAD club at your school or something like that. And then like Connect is like a great way of getting awards because it's not that much time. And yeah, it's not very competitive.
All right. Thank you for listening. And oh, I guess we do have a question, which is like Jerry Pro asked, how heavily do you weigh outreach over under mechanical with Inspire? I guess to be honest, Blue Crew is a very like robot heavy team who and we do like outreach on the side. So I guess a lot of our like I mean, I wouldn't call us an Inspire team, but like I guess we would focus on mechanical if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, yeah. Like for us, we never had like we never talked about outreach at like a meeting. We never planned like an outreach event or anything. Our members just did stuff. But I think if you're an Inspire team, like to be honest, I feel like I was an Inspire team like sophomore year, and I think that it's really it's basically like you just need like a baseline good enough robot and then it's mostly outreach that carries you to like big awards at like Worlds, in my opinion. So like having like one really impactful, unique piece of outreach. Like for us, we had like we started like a robotics region, stuff like that. Um my team from sophomore year got like Division Inspire at Worlds. And then this year we didn't focus at Inspire, but we got Inspire at like our qualifiers, I think. Um, yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.